Hello, I'm Terry Love, welcoming you to the first ever edition of the Cafe Jazz Bus on Tour. Today, our tour bus stops in Chicago, Illinois. That's right, the Windy City. And it is such a great honor to welcome aboard Chicago-born writer, producer, and bassist Larry Hubbard from the Liquid 8 recording group, Bass X.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
The pleasure's all mine.
A nice way to travel. I'm really impressed with this bus.
Thank you so much.
I've seen some homes that don't come out this nice.
The Bus on Tour is like our mobile studio that travels across the country to bring our listeners some up-close and personal interviews with some of today's hottest artists. So we have to travel in style.
Well, you're definitely doing it like that, that's for sure.
Larry, for our listeners who are not familiar with your group, tell us, who is Bass X?
Well, Bass X has a nucleus that's composed of myself, a guitarist I grew up with, coming from grade school, Keith Henderson, a keyboardist that hails from Chicago, Illinois, that we met back in the 90s, Tim Gant, and a vocalist from the south side of Chicago as well, Michael White.
And with there being so many different types of jazz, how would you classify the Bass X sound?
Well, we fuse everything that we've come in contact with, in our lives. We've played jazz, we've played blues, we've played funk, we've played Latin, we've played some of everything. And I think that that's how we came about the title of our last album, Airwave. We consider ourselves to be heir to everything that has gone on before us. So it's difficult to really put a title on it. I just want to call it Bass X music and let you know that it's a blend of everything that we touched along the way.
Very diverse musical background as well as covering different genres of music. So it's really feel-good music that everyone can listen to. Here's a feel-good tune from your album Airwave. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the host of Bus on Tour, here with Larry Hubbard from the Liquid 8 recording group Bass X. The tune you just heard was called Boney from the Bass X album Airwave. We'll be right back with Bus on Tour after a short commercial break. The Bus on Tour. The Cafe Jazz Bus on Tour is being brought to you by Liquid 8 Records, located in the backdrop of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The Bus on Tour. Liquid 8 Records brings you the best of smooth jazz, gospel, R&B, and much, much more. Liquid 8 Records, where something good is always flowing. The Bus on Tour. Hello, once again, I'm your host, Terry Love, the host of Bus on Tour, and we're in the windy city of Chicago, Illinois, hanging out with bass guitarist Larry Hubbard from the Liquid 8 recording group Bass X. I'm not sure if I'm the only one that does this or not, but every time I grab a CD, of course I'm going to throw the CD in, but I have to grab the insert and start reading through some of the credits to find out who's on trumpet, who's on keyboard, who's on vocals. And as I was going through your project, you have a lot of big league players on your CDs. How did you manage to link up with such fine musicians?
Having been sidemen over the years, you come in contact with other musicians while you're playing on the road. It just so happens on Bass X Volume 2, Airwave, which featured our first national hit, Boney, We had a studio engineer who kept listening to different records and saying, it would be nice to add maybe a sax here. And then he'd think and he'd go, hey, we have Steve Cole that lives right across the street, so why don't I ask him to come over? And then we ended up having Steve Cole just like that. Sometimes, it's association.
On your latest project, who are some of the other musicians that you worked with?
Well, our new album is called Family Time, and currently on radio is our first single. It's called Our Time, featuring saxophonist from Boulder, Colorado, good friend of ours, Nelson Rangel. We also had on guitar a gentleman from California that everybody knows if they've been listening to smooth jazz in the last few years, Mr. Paul Jackson Jr. So all those elements are put together on that one single, and I heard you're going to play a piece of it right now.
All right, Larry. Yes, indeed. I'm going to play it for you. From the album Family Time, here's Bass X with Our Time. That was an awesome tune, Larry.
Oh, thanks, Terry. That means a lot coming from a guy like you.
Since you just completed your latest project, Family Time, how is Bass X keeping busy?
Well, right now we're in the midst of rehearsing for our tour this summer. We'll be visiting several of the cities around the country, and we're also making plans for Bass X 4, which we started on about 2 weeks ago before your bus arrived.
Hey, Larry. For all of our listeners who need more information about Bass X, whether it's to buy a CD or to find out if Bass X is playing in the city near them, is there a website they can get the information from?
You would visit www.bassxcentral, all one word, .com.
Thank you so much, Larry, for being our first guest on Bus on Tour.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Just let me know for real, man. Do I have to leave?
Well, we're going to be on the road touring the country for quite a while.
Well, then, I'll just have to see you next time you come through Chicago.
Well, we'll catch you next time around. I'm Terry Love, the host of Cafe Jazz's Bus on Tour. I would like to thank you for coming along on the ride. I'd like to thank Larry Hubbard of the group Bass X. I would like to thank our transportation navigation specialist, that's our driver, Jay Porter, for keeping us safe. Thank you. I would like to thank Ted from Cafe Jazz for making the Bus on Tour ride possible, and thank each and every one of you for listening. Make sure you stay tuned next week. We may be in a city near you.